Before we can harness this power, before we can witness the miracles that await us, we must first learn to relax. Not the shallow relaxation of mere physical rest, but the profound relaxation that comes from understanding your true nature. You see, most of humanity lives in a state of perpetual tension, constantly struggling against what they perceive to be external forces. They fight their circumstances, they battle their limitations, they wage war against their present reality. Yet this very struggle is what keeps them bound to the very conditions they seek to escape. The quantum field that surrounds you, that permeates every atom of your being, responds not to your struggle, but to your state of consciousness. It is a field of infinite possibility, a realm where all potential realities exist simultaneously. But to access this field, to draw from its limitless resources, you must first cease your futile battling and learn the art of conscious relaxation. This is not the relaxation of defeat, but the relaxation of absolute confidence in your divine nature. When I speak of relaxing into the quantum, I am speaking of something far more profound than simply letting go of physical tension. I am speaking of releasing your grip on the false belief that you are separate from the creative power of the universe. I am speaking of dissolving the illusion that circumstances must change before you can feel fulfilled, abundant, or at peace. The quantum field knows no such limitations. In the quantum realm, cause and effect operate according to consciousness, not according to the rigid laws that seem to govern the physical world. Consider for a moment the nature of quantum mechanics itself. At a subatomic level, particles exist in what scientists call superposition, meaning they exist in all possible states simultaneously until observed. The very act of observation collapses this superposition into a single reality. You, my friends, are the observer. Your consciousness is the force that collapses infinity into poetic experience. But here is the key. You are not observing from outside the quantum field. You are the quantum field observing itself. This understanding changes everything. When you truly grasp that you and the creative power of the universe are one, when you realize that your consciousness is not contained within your physical body, but rather contains your entire world, then relaxation becomes not just possible, but inevitable. How can you struggle against yourself? How can you be anxious about a future that exists only in your imagination? How can you fear circumstances that are nothing more than the outpicturing of your own states of consciousness? The miracle of manifestation occurs not through effort, but through assumption, not through struggle, but through the gentle, relaxed knowing that what you desire is already yours. In the quantum field, there is no time as you understand it. Past, present, and future are merely constructs of the limited mind. In consciousness, in the eternal now, all things exist simultaneously. Your desired reality is not something you must create. It is something you must simply select from the infinite menu of possibilities that already exist. But selection requires a particular state of consciousness. It requires what I call the wish fulfilled. This is not hoping, not wanting, not needing. This is the relaxed assumption that your desire has already been realized. It is the gentle, confident feeling of having what you want, even before it appears in your physical experience. This assumption, held consistently and with absolute conviction, must manifest as your reality, because consciousness is the only reality. The reason most people fail to manifest their desires is that they approach manifestation from a state of lack. They want something because they feel they don't have it. They hope for change because they are dissatisfied with what is. But the quantum field responds to your feeling, not to your words or even your thoughts. If you feel lacking, you will continue to experience lack. If you feel needy, you will continue to experience need. The feeling of having is what creates the having. This is why relaxation is so crucial. When you are relaxed, you are not grasping. When you are at peace, you are not coming from a place of desperation or anxiety. Relaxation allows you to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled naturally, without the resistance that comes from trying too hard. It allows you to embody the state of consciousness that corresponds to your desire. Imagine, if you will, that you desire financial abundance. The common approach is to focus on the lack of money, to worry about bills, to struggle and strive to earn more. But this approach keeps you locked in the consciousness of financial limitation. Instead, relax into the feeling of abundance. What would it feel like to have all the money you need? How would you move through your day? What would be your state of mind? Assume that feeling now, not as a technique or a trick, but as the recognition of a truth that already exists in the quantum field of infinite possibility. The quantum field knows nothing of your current bank balance. It knows nothing of your circumstances, your history, or your limitations. It knows only consciousness, only the feeling you are entertaining, only the assumption you are making about yourself and your world. When you relax into the assumption of abundance, when you make it as natural as breathing to feel wealthy, the quantum field has no choice but to arrange circumstances to match that assumption. This principle applies to every area of your life. Health, relationships, career, creative expression, all of these are states of consciousness before they become physical experiences. The person who is naturally healthy does not struggle to maintain their health. They simply assume it. The person who is naturally loved does not desperately seek love. They assume their lovability. The person who is naturally successful does not strain for success. They assume their worthiness of it. But assumption, I must emphasize, is not mere positive thinking. Positive thinking often comes from a place of trying to change what is, which implies that what is has power over you. True assumption comes from the recognition that what appears to be is only a shadow of what truly is. Your current circumstances are nothing more than the remnants of your past assumptions. They have no power to limit your future, unless you give them that power by continuing to assume them. The art of relaxation into the quantum is the art of dying to what appears to be and being reborn into what you know to be true. It is dying to the old man who believed in limitation and being reborn as the new man who knows his divine nature. This death and rebirth happens not once but continuously, moment by moment, as you release old assumptions and embrace new ones. Consider the caterpillar that enters the chrysalis. Does it struggle to become a butterfly? Does it strive and strain and worry about the transformation? No, it simply relaxes into the process, allowing the intelligence within to perfect work. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly. It reveals that it was always a butterfly in potential. You do not become abundant or healthy or loved. You reveal that you were always these things in the quantum field of infinite possibility. The struggle, the effort, the trying, these are all forms of resistance to your true nature. They come from the false belief that you are separate from the creative power of the universe. But when you relax, when you let go of the need to make things happen through force, you allow the infinite intelligence that you are to express itself through you. You become a channel for miracles, not because you are special, but because you have remembered what you truly are. Miracles are not violations of natural law. They are the natural expression of consciousness operating according to its own principles. In the physical world, we see effects following causes in a linear fashion. But in consciousness, in the quantum realm, effects can precede causes, time can be transcended, and the impossible becomes inevitable. This is not magic in the sense of something supernatural. It is the natural operation of consciousness when it is free from the limitations of three-dimensional thinking. When you relax into the quantum, you are not asking the universe to give you something. You are not petitioning some external deity to grant your requests. You are recognizing that you and the universe are one, that your consciousness is the creative power itself, and that by changing your assumptions about yourself and your world, you change your world. The universe does not give you what you want. The universe gives you what you are. This understanding brings with it a profound responsibility. If you are the creative power, if your consciousness is shaping your reality, then you are responsible for everything you experience. This is not a burden, but a liberation. It means you are not at the mercy of external forces. It means you are not a victim of circumstances. It means you have the power to change anything in your life by changing your assumptions about it. But with this power comes the need for wisdom. The quantum field responds to your dominant feeling, your habitual assumption, your persistent state of consciousness. It does not respond to your occasional positive thought or your weekend meditation. It responds to what you truly believe about yourself and your world, often at levels deeper than your conscious mind. This is why relaxation is so important. When you are relaxed, you can observe your thoughts and feelings without being overwhelmed by them. You can notice when you are assuming limitation instead of abundance, fear instead of love, separation instead of unity. In this relaxed awareness, you can gently redirect your consciousness toward the assumptions that serve your highest good. The process is simple, but not necessarily easy. It requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to your experience. Instead of reacting to circumstances, you must learn to respond from a place of conscious choice. Instead of being at the effect of your world, you must claim your position as its cause. Instead of hoping for change, you must assume the change and allow it to manifest in its own perfect timing. Timing, you see, is not yours to control. Your job is not to determine when or how your desires will manifest. Your job is simply to assume the feeling of their fulfillment and to persist in that assumption regardless of appearances. The quantum field will arrange the perfect circumstances, the ideal timing, the most elegant solution. Your role is to provide the consciousness that makes it all possible. This requires what I call a Sabbath state of mind, a state of rest from your labors, a cessation of struggle, a deep relaxation into the truth of your being. In this Sabbath consciousness, you are not waiting for something to happen. You are resting in the knowledge that it has already happened. You are not becoming, you are being. You are not trying to create, you are allowing creation to express itself through you. The Sabbath is not a day of the week, it is a state of consciousness. It is the recognition that the work is done, that all things are already perfect, that your desired reality exists in the quantum field and is simply awaiting your recognition of it. In this state, anxiety is impossible because there is nothing to be anxious about. Struggle is unnecessary because there is nothing to struggle against. Fear is meaningless because you know yourself to be one with the source of all power. From this relaxed state, miracles unfold naturally, not because you have earned them or deserved them, but because they are the natural expression of consciousness operating according to its true principles. A miracle is simply the appearance in the physical world of what was already true in consciousness. It is the materialization of an assumption, the objectification of a feeling, the crystallization of a belief. But here's what most people miss. The miracle is not the external change. The miracle is the change in consciousness that makes the external change inevitable. When you truly relax into the quantum, when you genuinely assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you have already performed the miracle. Everything that follows is simply the natural unfolding of that miracle in the world of effects. This is why faith is so important. Not faith in something outside yourself, but faith in your own divine nature. Faith is not believing in something you hope is true. Faith is the confident assumption of something you know to be true. When you have faith in your ability to assume any state of consciousness, when you have faith in the power of consciousness to create reality, when you have faith in your identity as the creative power itself, then manifestation becomes as natural as breathing. The quantum field is not somewhere out there, it is here now within you and as you. Every atom of your body is vibrating with quantum possibility. Every thought you think is creating ripples in the quantum field. Every feeling you entertain is collapsing probability waves into concrete experience. You are not separate from the quantum field, you are the quantum field becoming aware of itself. When you truly understand this, relaxation becomes effortless. How can you be tense when you know you are the creative power? How can you be anxious when you understand that you are the author of your experience? How can you be afraid when you realize that you are the very consciousness through which the infinite expresses itself? The practice then becomes very simple. Throughout your day, notice when you are tense, when you are struggling, when you are resisting what is. In those moments, gently remind yourself of your true nature. Relax into the knowing that you are not the victim of circumstances, but their creator. Assume the feeling of what you desire and rest in that assumption as if it were already your reality. Do not concern yourself with how it will happen. Do not worry about when it will occur. Do not analyze the probability or the practicality. Simply assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and let the quantum field do what it does best. Arrange circumstances to match your consciousness. This is the secret that mystics have known throughout the ages. expressed now in the language of quantum physics. Consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is simply consciousness expressing itself in various forms. When you change your consciousness, you change your world. When you relax into your true nature as the creative power itself, miracles become not just possible, but inevitable. The time has come to stop living as a beggar in a world of infinite abundance. The time has come to stop struggling against circumstances that exist only because you have assumed them. The time has come to relax into the quantum field of infinite possibility and allow miracles to unfold through you as you for you. You are not separate from the power that creates worlds. You are that power expressing itself through the unique prism of your individual consciousness. When you truly grasp this, when you relax into this truth completely, your entire world will transform, not through struggle, not through effort, not through trying, but through the simple, elegant act of assuming your divine nature and resting in that assumption. The quantum field is waiting for your recognition. Infinite possibilities are hovering in superposition, waiting for your consciousness to collapse them into your reality. The only question is, what will you choose to assume about yourself and your world? What feeling will you relax into? What version of yourself will you decide to be? The choice is yours, and the power to manifest that choice lies within you now. Not in some future moment when conditions are right, not when you have learned more or become more, but now in this very instant. The quantum field knows no delay. When you assume it is done, when you believe it is accomplished, when you relax into the truth of your being, miracles begin to unfold automatically. So I leave you with this instruction. Relax, not into passivity, but into power. Not into resignation, but into recognition. Not into defeat, but into the absolute certainty of your divine nature. Relax into the quantum field of infinite possibility and watch as your world transforms to match the majesty of your true identity. You are the operant power. You are the creative force. You are consciousness itself, appearing as human for the sheer joy of creating through limitation. When you remember this, when you relax into this knowing completely, you will discover that miracles are not rare exceptions to natural law, but the natural expression of consciousness operating according to its true principles. The quantum field is your true home, and in that field all things are possible. All dreams are already fulfilled, and all miracles are simply waiting for your relaxed recognition of them. Step into that field now. Assume your divine nature. Relax into the quantum and let miracles unfold as naturally as flowers bloom in spring. This is your inheritance, your birthright, your true nature. Not something you must earn or achieve, but something you must simply remember and assume. In the quantum field of consciousness, you are already everything you have ever wanted to be. Relax into that truth and watch as your external world transforms to match the perfection that has always been your true reality. The miracle is not coming, the miracle is here. The abundance is not approaching, the abundance is present. The love is not on its way, the love is now. All you must do is relax into the quantum field of infinite possibility and allow what is already true in consciousness to manifest in your experience. Your journey of awakening begins with this single step, the relaxed assumption of your divine nature. From that assumption, all else flows. From that recognition, all miracles emerge. From that relaxed knowing, your entire world is reborn in the image and likeness of your highest understanding of yourself. The quantum awaits your recognition. Infinity calls to you to remember your true name. The creative power of the universe beckons you to claim your rightful place as its conscious expression. Will you answer? Will you relax into the truth of what you are? Will you allow miracles to unfold through the simple act of assuming your divine nature? The choice is yours. The power is within you. The time is now. Relax into the quantum and let miracles unfold as the natural expression of consciousness, recognizing itself as the one and only creative power in the universe. This is your truth, your reality, your destiny. Embrace it, assume it, relax into it, and watch as your world transforms into the perfect reflection of your divine consciousness. The universe, this vast intelligent power that surrounds us, that lives in us, that is us, does not respond to your wants. And yet, this is the most liberating truth you will ever encounter, for it unveils the actual law by which your world is shaped, the fallacy of wanting. But Neville, you might say, I have been taught that I must want things intensely to attract them. This, my dear friends, is the first illusion we must dispel. Wanting by its very nature is an admission of lack. When you say, I want, you are declaring to the universe, I do not have. And the universe, being the perfect mirror of consciousness, reflects back precisely this state of not having. Consider for a moment what the word want truly implies. To want is to be without. It is to stand in a state of absence, looking outward at something you do not possess. And as you stand firmly in this consciousness of absence, the law being no respecter of persons, but only of states, must continue to deliver experiences that match this consciousness of lack. I knew a man in New York who for years proclaimed his desire for financial abundance. Daily he affirmed, I want wealth. I want to be free of debt. Yet year after year, his financial situation deteriorated. One day, in desperation, he came to me, and I shared with him what I now share with you. The universe was not failing him. It was responding with perfect precision to his consciousness of wanting, of absence, of lack. The state to which the universe responds. If the universe does not respond to want, to what does it respond? It responds unfailingly to your state of being, to what you are claiming yourself to be in the depths of your consciousness. The universe does not care what you want. It only cares what you are. Every moment of your existence, you occupy a state. These states are countless. But at this very moment, you are in a state. It may be a state of health or illness, wealth or poverty, love or loneliness. And the universe, with mathematical precision, delivers experiences that correspond to this state. I am, these two words are the most powerful in all of existence. Whatever follows, I am shapes your reality. When you declare I am sick, the universe does not analyze whether you desire this sickness. It simply reflects back experiences that match this declaration. When you declare I am wealthy, even if your bank account appears empty, you are shifting into a state to which the universe must respond. What many fail to realize is that you need not wait for external evidence to claim a new state of being. In fact, the evidence will only follow your prior assumption. As I have told you time and again, imagination creates reality. But it is not what you imagine as something distant or separate from yourself. It is what you imagine yourself to be. The feeling I ask the secret. My beloved audience, here we approach the heart of the matter. The universe responds not to your thoughts, not to your words, not even to your occasional declarations. It responds to your consistent feeling, your emotional state, the mood that permeates your being. Feelings are the language of the soul. They are the true communication between you and the divine power that shapes your world. When you feel wealthy, you are wealthy in consciousness, and the universe must respond to this state. When you feel loved, you are loved in consciousness, and your world reshapes itself to reflect this truth. I recall a young woman who attended my lectures in Los Angeles. For years, she had been seeking a loving relationship, moving from one disappointing encounter to another. I want to be loved, she would say with tears in her eyes. And yet day after day, she walked through the world carrying a feeling of being unloved, unwanted. I instructed her to cease her wanting and instead to assume the feeling of being deeply loved. Before you sleep tonight, I told her, feel the warmth of loving arms around you. Feel the absolute certainty that you are cherished beyond measure. She followed this instruction not once, but night after night. Within a month, her entire demeanor had changed. She no longer moved through the world as one seeking love, but as one who knew herself to be loved. And as is always the case when one assumes a new state, her external reality rearranged itself to match her inner knowing. The loving relationship she had sought appeared in her life, seemingly by chance, yet perfectly aligned with the law, living from the end. If the universe responds to your state of being, then the great secret of manifestation is to assume the state of your wish fulfilled. This is what I mean when I speak of living from the end. When you live from the end, you are not looking toward a desired future, you are experiencing it as present fact in your imagination. And imagination, when coupled with feeling, is the very substance of reality and formation. Consider this: every invention, every building, every work of art first existed in someone's imagination before it was made manifest in the physical world. The Wright brothers imagined human flight before they created the first airplane. Michelangelo saw David within the marble before his chisel touched the stone. In the same way, the life you desire already exists in potential, awaiting your assumption of its reality and consciousness. The universe does not need to create it anew. It needs only to move the existing pieces of your life to match your inner conviction. I knew a physician who dreamed of opening a clinic to serve those who could not afford medical care. For years he said, "I want to open my clinic," yet he remained in his conventional practice. When he came to understand the principle I am sharing with you tonight, he began to assume the state of already running his dream clinic. Each night before sleep, he would imagine walking through the doors of his clinic. He would feel the satisfaction of treating patients regardless of their ability to pay. He would hear their words of gratitude. He would experience the fulfillment of his life's purpose not as a future event, but as a present reality. Within 6 months, a series of seemingly unrelated events led to the fulfillment of this dream. A building became available in precisely the location he had imagined. Funding appeared from unexpected sources. Medical supplies were donated by a company that was upgrading its equipment. The universe did not respond to his years of wanting. It responded immediately when he assumed the state of already being what he desired to be. The LAYS impersonal. My friends, I must emphasize that the law of which I speak is entirely impersonal. It does not judge whether your desires are noble or ignoble, spiritual or material. It simply responds to the state you occupy. This is why you will find both saints and criminals who understand the law and use it effectively. The saint assumes the state of communion with God and experiences divine revelations. The criminal assumes the state of successful theft and finds opportunities for ill-gotten gain. The law itself is neutral. It is the consciousness of the individual that determines how the law will operate in their personal experience. I am not suggesting that you use this knowledge for questionable purposes. I am merely illustrating that the universe does not make moral judgments about your desires. It simply reflects back to you the state you have chosen to occupy. This understanding should free you from any lingering belief that you must somehow be worthy of your desires. The only worthiness required is your willingness to assume the state of the wish fulfilled. The universe does not respond to your worthiness. It responds to your consciousness. The Sabbath, resting on the assumption, having recognized that the universe responds not to your wanting, but to your state of being. The question naturally arises, how do we maintain the desired state long enough for it to become our physical reality? The answer lies in what the ancient scriptures call the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not merely a day of the week. It is a state of consciousness. It is that moment when you rest from your labors, knowing that what you have been seeking is already yours in consciousness. When God completed the work of creation, he rested knowing it was finished. In the same way, once you have assumed the state of your wish fulfilled, you must rest in that assumption, knowing that the work is complete on the level of consciousness and its physical manifestation is assured. This rest is not inactivity. You will still go about your daily tasks, but you will do so from a new state of being, carrying within you the quiet confidence that what you have assumed in consciousness must by law become your physical experience. I have often told the story of a man who desired a promotion in his company. For months he had been passed over despite his qualifications. When he learned this principle, he began to assume the feeling of already occupying the new position. He mentally heard the congratulations of his colleagues. He felt the satisfaction of the increased responsibility and compensation. Having assumed this state, he then rested in his assumption. He did not anxiously check for signs of his promotion. He did not repeatedly discuss his desire with colleagues. He simply knew with unshakable conviction that in consciousness, the promotion was already his. 2 weeks later, he was called into his superior's office and informed that due to a reorganization of the company, a new position had been created, one that perfectly matched his skills and offered even greater advancement than he had imagined. The universe had responded not to his wanting, but to his being. The creative power of revision. There are times, my dear friends, when despite our best efforts, we find ourselves entrenched in undesirable states. Perhaps we have been living with the consciousness of illness, financial struggle, or strained relationships for so long that it seems impossible to assume a new state. In such moments, we can employ the powerful technique of revision. Revision is the art of reimagining past events to align with our desired state of being. It is not mere wishful thinking or denial of reality. It is a conscious restructuring of our relationship to our past. Consider that what we call the past exists only in our memory. And memory is not fixed, it is fluid, subject to constant reinterpretation. By revising our memories, we alter the foundations upon which our current state rests. I recall a woman who had experienced a bitter argument with her sister, leading to years of estrangement. The memory of that argument poisoned her thoughts and kept her in a state of resentment and loss. When she learned the principle of revision, she began each night to reimagine that pivotal conversation. In her imagination, she replaced harsh words with expressions of understanding. She felt the warmth of reconciliation instead of the cold of rejection. Night after night, she revised this memory until the new version felt more real to her than the original experience. Within a month, she received a letter from her sister expressing a desire to heal their relationship. The universe responded not to the historical facts, but to the woman's revised state of consciousness. The power of your assumptions. My friends, let us delve deeper into what truly shapes your reality. Your assumptions, even those of which you are not consciously aware, are constantly being projected into your experience. These assumptions are not merely thoughts. They are the deeply held convictions about yourself and the world that color your perception and draw corresponding experiences to you. Many go through life never examining their core assumptions. They assume life is difficult, people are untrustworthy, success is for the lucky few, or love is fleeting. And as they cling to these assumptions, the law faithfully delivers experiences that confirm them. I knew a businessman who, despite his intelligence and work ethic, repeatedly found himself in failed ventures. When we examined his assumptions, we discovered that deep within his consciousness lay the conviction that success requires struggle, and anything easily gained is not truly valuable. With this understanding, is it any wonder that the universe presented him with one struggle after another? He was not experiencing these difficulties because the universe was indifferent to his desires. He was experiencing them because the universe was responding perfectly to his assumptions about the nature of success. Once he recognized these hidden assumptions, he began the work of deliberately assuming their opposites. Success flows to me with ease, he would affirm before sleep. My prosperity benefits everyone it touches. As he persisted in these new assumptions, his external circumstances gradually transformed to match his inner canvas, the imaginal ACT. How then do we effectively transition from our current state to the desired state? through what I call the imaginal act, a deliberate exercise of consciousness in which we temporarily set aside physical reality and immerse ourselves in the reality we wish to experience. The imaginal act is not daydreaming or idle fantasy. It is a controlled, purposeful use of imagination to create a sensory-rich experience of your wish fulfilled. During the imaginal act, you temporarily close the door on the world of the senses and open yourself to the world of infinite possibilities. For this exercise to be effective, it must include sensory detail. If you desire a new home, you must not merely see it, you must feel the doorknob in your hand, hear your footsteps on the floor, smell the freshness of the air, touch the texture of the walls. You must occupy the scene as if it were physically present. The power of the imaginal act lies not in its duration, but in its intensity. A single moment of complete immersion in the feeling of the wish fulfilled can be more effective than hours of half-hearted visualization. The key is to achieve what I call the feeling of reality, that moment when your imaginative experience feels as solid and substantial as any physical experience. I taught this principle to a young artist who had struggled for years to have his work recognized. Each night he would engage in an imaginal act in which he stood in a gallery surrounded by his paintings. He would hear specific words of appreciation from attendees. He would feel the quiet satisfaction of artistic recognition. Within 3 months, he was invited to participate in a group exhibition at a prestigious gallery, the very recognition he had been imagining. The universe responded not to his years of wanting recognition, but to his assumption of already having received it. The other law of identical harvest. There exists a principle articulated in various spiritual traditions that you reap what you sow. I prefer to think of this as the law of identical harvest. Whatever you plant in consciousness through your consistent assumptions, feelings, and imaginal acts must eventually flower into corresponding external experiences. This law operates with mathematical precision. If you plant corn, you cannot harvest wheat. If you plant assumptions of lack, you cannot harvest abundance. If you plant feelings of unworthiness, you cannot harvest experiences of being valued and appreciated. Many misunderstand this principle, believing that if they think positive thoughts occasionally while maintaining a consciousness of limitation, they will somehow reap positive results. But occasional thoughts have little power against the deeply rooted assumptions that govern your basic sense of identity and possibility. It is not what you think about occasionally, but what you consistently assume yourself to be that creates your reality. Your harvest will always be identical in kind to the seeds you have planted in consciousness. I recall a teacher who came to me in despair over her classroom of unruly students. I want them to be respectful and engaged, she said. Yet each day she walked into her classroom assuming conflict and resistance. Her consciousness was filled with seeds of classroom struggle. I instructed her to plant new seeds to assume that her students were capable, interested, and naturally inclined toward order. Before each class, she would imagine the feeling of teaching engaged, respectful students. She would feel the satisfaction of meaningful educational exchange. Within weeks, the atmosphere in her classroom transformed. The universe responded not to her wanting better behavior from her students, but to her assumption of already experiencing ideal classroom interactions. Persistence until naturalness. My dear friends, the transition from one state to another is rarely instantaneous in its physical manifestation. While the shift in consciousness can occur in a moment, the reorganization of your external circumstances typically unfolds over time. The key to successful manifestation is persistence, not the strained persistence of forcing yourself to believe something against all evidence, but the natural persistence that comes from knowing the law and trusting its operation. When you first assume a new state, it may feel artificial, like wearing clothes that don't quite fit. But with consistent attention to maintaining this state in consciousness, it eventually becomes your natural self-concept. When this naturalness is achieved, the manifestation of your desire is assured. I have observed that many abandon their imaginal work too soon. They assume the state of the wish fulfilled for a few days, see no immediate physical evidence, and conclude that the principle is not working. What they fail to realize is that manifestation follows a natural gestation period. Just as a seed planted in soil requires time to sprout and grow. There was a salesman who dreamed of doubling his income. Following these principles, he assumed the state of already earning his desired amount. For weeks, he maintained this assumption without seeing any change in his commission checks. Lesser men might have abandoned the practice, but he persisted. In the 9th week, he was offered a position managing a team of salespeople, a role that more than doubled his income. The universe had been responding to his assumption all along, rearranging circumstances in ways he could not have anticipated to deliver the essence of his desire. The distinction between wishing and assuming. As we near the conclusion of our discussion, I must emphasize the crucial distinction between wishing for something and assuming it as fact in consciousness. This distinction marks the difference between those who use the law successfully and those who remain perpetually disappointed. Wishing places your desire in an imaginary future that never arrives. It maintains the separation between you and your desire. Someday the wisher says, I will have what I want. And in this declaration, they ensure that their desire remains forever distant. Assuming, by contrast, collapses time. It brings your desire into the present moment as a completed fact. I am now what I desire to be, declares the one who assumes. And in this declaration, they unite with their desire, becoming in consciousness what they seek to be in experience. The universe does not respond to your wishes, it responds to your assumptions. It does not deliver what you want, it delivers what you are. The great secret, then, is to assume yourself to be what you seek, and from this assumption to live and act as though it were already so. I knew a woman who wished to reconcile with her estranged son. For years she had tried to reestablish contact, sending letters and messages that went. When she learned these principles, she ceased her external efforts and focused on assuming the state of already having a loving relationship with her son. Each night before sleep, she would imagine a scene that implied their reconciliation. She would feel the joy of their restored connection. She would hear his voice expressing love and forgiveness. She persisted in this practice, transferring her energy from wishing for a future reconciliation to experiencing a present harmony. Within 2 months, she received a phone call from her son, the first in over 3 years. The conversation led to a meeting, which led to the healing of their relationship. The universe responded not to her wanting reconciliation, but to her assumption of it as an accomplished fact, living in a state of abundance. My friends, as we bring this discussion to a close, I want to address the most common desire expressed by those who attend my lectures, the desire for greater abundance, prosperity, and financial freedom. Many approach this desire from a consciousness of lack. They see money as something outside themselves that they must struggle to acquire. They believe there is a limited supply of wealth, and they must compete with others to secure their portion. And as they maintain this consciousness, the universe faithfully delivers experiences of financial struggle and limitation. The truth is that abundance is not something you obtain, it is a state you occupy. When you live in the state of abundance, you experience yourself as connected to the infinite supply of the universe. You know with unshakable conviction that all your needs are met, not from a limited external source, but from the limitless source within. From this state, you take actions not from desperation, but from inspiration. You make decisions not from fear, but from a sense of security and possibility. And as you live from this state, the universe rearranges itself to reflect your consciousness of plenty. I recall a woman who had lived for years with financial anxiety, constantly worrying about paying her bills. When she learned these principles, she began to live from the state of abundance. Each night she would fall asleep feeling the relief and gratitude of having more than enough. During the day, she would walk through the world carrying this feeling of abundance, regardless of her bank balance. Within 3 months, opportunities for increased income appeared in her life. A skill she had developed as a hobby became the foundation for a profitable business. An investment she had made years earlier suddenly increased in value. The universe responded not to her wanting abundance, but to her being abundant in consciousness. The final word, faith in your law. We have covered much ground tonight, exploring the profound truth that the universe responds not to your wants, but to your state of being. As we conclude, I wish to leave you with a final thought on the role of faith in the application of this law. Faith in the context of manifestation is not blind belief in something for which there is no evidence. It is the conviction born of understanding that the law operates with mathematical precision. It is the certainty that when you assume a state in consciousness, the universe must deliver experiences that match that state. This faith is not something you must struggle to attain. It arises naturally from an intellectual and experiential understanding of the law. The more you observe the law in operation in your own life, the stronger your faith becomes until it transforms into knowing. Begin tonight to practice what you have learned. Choose one desire that has thus far eluded you. Rather than wanting it, assume the state of already possessing it. Create an imaginal scene that implies its fulfillment. Feel the reality of this scene. Fall asleep in this state. Maintain this assumption during your waking hours, and watch as the universe, with perfect fidelity, reshapes your external world to match your inner conviction. Remember always, the universe doesn't care what you want, it cares what you are. Assume yourself to be what you seek, and by law you must become it in experience. My dear friends, it has been my honor to share these principles with you tonight. May you use them wisely to create a life of fulfillment, joy, and service to your fellow man. For in the end, the greatest use of this law is not merely to acquire possessions, but to become the fullest expression of your dying potential. Go now in the confidence that the power that shapes worlds lives within you, responding always to your consciousness. The universe awaits your command, delivered not through wanting, not through pleading, but through the quiet assumption of already being what you desire to be. Many of you sit here tonight caught in states of waiting for better health, waiting for financial abundance, waiting for love to enter your life, waiting for recognition, waiting for peace of mind. But I tell you, waiting is the antithesis of creation. In the realm of imagination, which is the realm of God, for God and your wonderful human imagination are one and the same, there is no waiting. There is only the eternal now. Let us examine the words of Scripture. For all Scripture is a psychological drama taking place in the depth of your own being. In the book of Revelation, we read, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me." This door is not some physical entrance, but the door to your consciousness. Your miracle is knocking right now, asking for entrance into your world. Will you let it in? The great mistake that mankind makes is believing that miracles are external events that happen to us through some force outside ourselves. This is the great illusion. The truth, the absolute truth that I am giving you tonight is that miracles are not external happenings, but internal assumptions. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, when you live from the end as though your desire were already an accomplished fact, you are performing the greatest miracle. I recall a lady who came to me in utter despair. For 15 years, she had been separated from her son. Legal battles, geographic distance, and family disputes had created what appeared to be an insurmountable barrier between them. She had tried everything the external world offered: lawyers, mediators, letters, phone calls, but to no avail. Then she discovered this principle. Instead of dwelling in the state of separation, which only perpetuated that reality, she began to sleep each night in the assumption that her son was back in her life. She would fall asleep feeling the joy of their reunion, hearing his voice, feeling his embrace. Within 3 weeks, after 15 years of separation, her phone rang. It was her son calling from a nearby town, asking if he could come see her. The external bridge was built because the internal bridge had been established first in her imagination. This is how your miracle will come. Not by fighting against current circumstances, not by forcing external events, but by assuming in the depth of your consciousness that you already are what you desire to be. For consciousness is the only reality, and everything else is merely its shadow. Many of you have been taught to believe that your desires are too grand, that you must be practical, reasonable, and conform to the limitations of the world around you. This is the greatest lie ever perpetuated upon mankind. The truth is that your consciousness knows no limitations, and the miracle you seek is limited only by your capacity to imagine it as real. The Bible tells us all things are possible to him that believeth. But what does it mean to believe? It does not mean to intellectually accept something as true. True belief is the complete acceptance of your desire as an already existing fact. It is when your inner conversation and feeling states are in complete alignment with your wish fulfilled. When you truly believe, you cease trying to make things happen, because in your consciousness they have already happened. I want you to understand something fundamental about the nature of your miracle. The time interval between your assumption and its physical manifestation is merely a device of your three-dimensional world. In the fourth dimension of consciousness, where your imagination dwells, your miracle already exists in its completeness. The appearance of time is simply the movement of events across the screen of your three-dimensional world. So many of you are giving up just before your miracle manifests physically. You plant the seed in consciousness by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. But then you dig it up repeatedly to see if it's growing. No farmer would expect a harvest by continually uprooting his seeds to check their progress. Similarly, you must allow your assumption to take root in the first soil of your consciousness without the interference. Let me share with you another principle that is crucial to the manifestation of your miracle. What you focus on expands. If you focus on the absence of your desire, on the lack, on the waiting, on the not having, then that state of consciousness will expand and perpetuate itself. But if you focus on the presence of your desire, on the feeling of having it now, that state will expand and externalize itself in your world. There is a story in the Bible of the woman with the issue of blood who touched the hem of Jesus' garment and was healed instantly. Jesus said to her, "Thy faith hath made thee whole." Now, who is this Jesus in the story? He is your own wonderful human imagination. And the woman's faith was not a passive hope that she might be healed someday. It was an active assumption that by touching the garment, by making contact with the power of imagination, she would be healed now. And she was. Your miracle operates by the same principle. It requires your active assumption, your complete conviction that it is done. The world may present you with 1,000 reasons why your desire cannot be fulfilled. Circumstances may seem to contradict the possibility of your miracle. People may discourage you with their limited thinking. But I say to you with absolute authority, all external evidence is only the product of past assumptions. It has no power to prevent new assumptions from reshaping your world. Do not be discouraged by appearances. Appearances are shadows, while your consciousness is the substance. As Neville, I tell you that the secret to manifestation lies not in manipulating shadows, but in changing the substance from which shadows are cast. When you change your concept of self, when you assume a new state of consciousness, the shadows must conform. Now let us speak of persistence, for many of you are on the verge of giving up. You have tried to apply these principles, but you have not yet seen the physical evidence of your desires. Perhaps you have even concluded that these principles do not work for you. Let me tell you why this conclusion is false and why you must persist. The law of assumption is just that, a law. It is as consistent and unwavering as the law of gravity. It does not work sometimes and fail other times. It is always operating, whether you are conscious of it or not. If your desire has not yet manifested, it is not because the law has failed. It is because you have not yet fully assumed the consciousness of having your desire. There may still be contradictory assumptions operating beneath the surface of your awareness. Remember the words of Scripture, "Let patience have a perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." Patience in this context does not mean waiting passively for something to happen. It means maintaining your assumption regardless of appearances, until the bridge of incidents has been built that leads to the feature and manifestation of your desire. There is a perfect time for the externalization of your desires, a divine timing that human intellect cannot calculate. This divine timing is determined not by some external clock, but by the complete saturation of your consciousness with the feeling of your wish fulfilled. When there is no longer any conflict in your mind, when you have completely accepted your desire as an accomplished fact, then the miracle must come forth. I have seen countless individuals who were on the brink of giving up, who had tried everything and were ready to abandon their dreams, only to discover that their miracle was just around the corner. Had they given up, they would have never witnessed the manifestation that was already in motion. Think of Elijah in the Bible, who prayed for rain during a devastating drought. After his prayer, he sent his servant to look toward the sea for any sign of rain. 6 times the servant returned saying there was nothing. But on the 7th time, he reported seeing a small cloud, the size of a man's hand, rising from the sea. From that tiny cloud came a torrential downpour that ended the drought. Your miracle may begin as a small cloud on the horizon, a subtle shift in circumstances, an unexpected phone call, a chance meeting, a new idea. Do not despise these small beginnings, for they are the first physical evidence of the massive change that has already occurred in your consciousness. When Jesus stood before the tomb of Lazarus, who had been dead for 4 days, he did not pray for Lazarus to be resurrected. Instead, he said, "Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me." He gave thanks before any physical evidence of the miracle was present. This is the secret thanksgiving in advance. When you give thanks for your miracle as though it has already happened, you are establishing in consciousness the very condition that will objectify itself in your world. Let us explore another dimension of this principle. Many of you believe that your miracle requires the cooperation of specific individuals or the arrangement of particular circumstances. You think, if only my boss would give me that promotion, or if only that person would love me, or if only the market would shift in my favor. But this is to misunderstand the nature of creation. Your consciousness does not depend on any external condition for its creative power. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the entire universe rearranges itself to make that assumption a reality. People, circumstances, events, all are merely instruments for the externalization of your assumptions. They have no power to initiate causes. They can only reflect the causes you have initiated in your own consciousness. This principle removes all sense of dependency and victimhood. You are not at the mercy of others' decisions or external conditions. You are the operant power in your life, and the entire objective world is the servant of your assumptions. I recall a gentleman who was told by medical authorities that he had an incurable condition that would progressively worsen. The experts gave him no hope. But rather than accepting this verdict, he began to assume the feeling of perfect health. Each night before sleep, he would construct a scene implying that he was completely well. He would imagine his doctor expressing amazement at his recovery. He persisted in this assumption despite all physical evidence to the contrary. Within 6 months, he returned to his doctor for tests, and to the doctor's astonishment, there was no trace of the condition. The doctor called it a medical miracle. But it was not a medical miracle, it was a miracle of consciousness. You see, the creative power does not reside in the doctor, the medicine, or any external agency. It resides in your consciousness. When you change your concept of self, you change your relationship to everything in your world, including your own body. Now, I want to address a crucial aspect of manifestation that many overlook. Your miracle is not something separate from yourself. You are not trying to attract something from outside. You are awakening to the reality that everything you desire already exists within you in a state of potential. Manifestation is not attraction, it is expression. It is the outpicturing of what already exists within. Think of an acorn. Within that tiny seed exists the full potential of a mighty oak tree. The oak is not attracted to the acorn from outside. It unfolds from within as the inherent nature of the acorn expresses itself. Similarly, your miracle is the natural expression of the state of consciousness you have assumed. It is the oak tree emerging from the acorn of your assumption. This understanding transforms how you approach manifestation. Instead of trying to get something, you focus on being something. For what you are is what you will express, and what you express is what you will experience in your three-dimensional world. In the Bible we read, "Let this mind be in you which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God." This is not blasphemy, it is the statement of a psychological fact. Your imagination Christ in you is God in action. When you assume the mind of having what you desire, you are exercising the same creative power that created the universe. Your miracle is not coming, it exists now as a present reality in the imagination. And since imagination creates reality, the feeling state you assume today must objectify itself in your tomorrow. This is law, not luck or chance. Many of you have spent years affirming positive thoughts while maintaining a feeling state of lack. You have recited affirmations of abundance while feeling poor. You have declared health while feeling sick. You have professed love while feeling unloved. But I tell you, it is not what you affirm with your lips, but what you affirm in feeling that creates your reality. For feeling is the prayer, and prayer is feeling. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine with feeling, you become. Consider the story of Jacob and Esau. Jacob, whose name means supplanter, covered himself with the skins of goats to simulate the hairiness of his brother Esau. When his blind father Isaac felt him, he believed he was touching Esau and gave Jacob the blessing intended for the firstborn. This story is not about deception, but about the power of assumption. When you assume the feeling of being what you want to be, even though your reason and senses deny it, you receive the blessing, the manifestation of that state. Your miracle is already yours in the invisible reality of consciousness. The only distance between you and its physical manifestation is the distance between your present concept of self and the concept you would assume if your desire were already fulfilled. Close that gap in consciousness, and you close the gap in manifestation. Let me share with you a technique that has helped countless individuals bridge this gap. It is the technique of living from the end. Before you fall asleep each night, construct a scene in your imagination that would imply your miracle has already happened. Make this scene as vivid and as real as possible. Engage all your senses. What would you see? What would you hear? What would you feel? What would you smell or taste? How would others respond to you? Create this scene with such clarity that it feels more real than your bedroom. Then, enter fully into this scene. Don't observe it from a distance, be a participant in it. Feel the emotions you would feel if this were actually happening. Allow the joy, the gratitude, the peace, the excitement to course through your body. Fall asleep in this state, for the subconscious mind is most impressionable as you enter the sleep state. Do this night after night, and you will begin to notice subtle shifts in your waking reality. Opportunities will appear that were not there before. Resources will become available. People will respond to you differently. These are the signs that your assumption is taking root and beginning to objectify itself in your world. But do not make the mistake of looking for your miracle exactly as you have imagined it. The bridge of incidents that leads to your desire may take unexpected forms. Trust the wisdom of your deeper mind to bring about your desire in ways that your intellect cannot conceive. Your role is to maintain the assumption of the end, not to dictate the means. Now let us confront the great enemy of manifestation, doubt. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. It is faith in the opposite. When you doubt, you are actually exercising faith in what you do not want. You are assuming the feeling of not having, and that assumption must objectify itself just as surely as the assumption of having. The antidote to doubt is not blind optimism, but a deeper understanding of the creative process. When doubt arises, do not fight it or deny it. Instead, recognize it as a signal that you have temporarily slipped back into the old state of consciousness. Then, gently but firmly return to your new assumption. Persist in the assumption that your miracle is already yours, and eventually that assumption will harden into fact. Remember the words of Jesus, "According to your faith be it unto you." Faith is not a sentiment, it is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is the feeling tone of already having what you desire. When you maintain this feeling despite all evidence to the contrary, you are exercising true faith, and your miracle must come. I want to address something that prevents many from fully applying these principles, the fear of disappointment. Some of you hold back from fully assuming your desires fulfilled because you fear the pain of disappointment if it doesn't materialize. You think you are protecting yourself, but in reality, you are guaranteeing the very disappointment you seek to avoid. For the law of assumption operates with mathematical precision. What you assume, you become. If you assume that your desire might not be fulfilled, that assumption itself creates the condition where it cannot be fulfilled. But if you assume with complete conviction that it is already fulfilled, nothing in this world can prevent its manifestation. The secret is to transfer your faith from the evidence of the senses to the evidence of imagination. When you can feel the reality of your imagined state with the same intensity that you now feel the reality of your physical state, your miracle is assured. Consider the parable of the talents. The servant who buried his talent in the ground did so out of fear. He was afraid of losing what he had. But the master condemned this action, taking the 1 talent from him and giving it to the one who had 10 talents. This parable illustrates a profound psychological law. What you fear, you attract. What you try to avoid, you invite. The only way to truly possess what you desire is to assume the feeling of already possessing it. Your miracle is not some distant possibility. It is a present reality in consciousness waiting to be claimed. The choice is yours. Will you continue to live from the assumption of lack, of waiting, of hoping that someday your desire will be fulfilled? Or will you have the courage to assume right now that what you desire is already yours? I challenge you tonight to make a fundamental shift in consciousness. Stop thinking of yourself as someone who is trying to achieve a goal, and stop thinking of yourself as someone who has already achieved it. Stop seeing yourself as someone who is working toward health, and start seeing yourself as someone who is already healthy. Stop feeling yourself to be unloved, and start feeling yourself to be deeply loved. For what you assume, you become, and what you become in consciousness, you express in reality. The outer world may convince you that your miracle is impossible. People may tell you that you are being unrealistic, that you should accept your limitations and be content with less than your heart desires. But I tell you with absolute certainty, the only limitations that exist are those you accept in consciousness. Change your consciousness, and you change your world. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This word is not some utterance spoken thousands of years ago. It is the creative power of your own wonderful human imagination operating now, in this moment. When you speak the word in consciousness by assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are invoking the same creative power that brought the universe into being. Your miracle does not require you to be special, talented, educated, wealthy, or well-connected. It requires only that you understand and apply the creative principle. That is your birthright as a human being. This principle is no respecter of persons. It works for anyone who applies it, regardless of their background, circumstances, or past failures. I have seen individuals from all walks of life transform their reality through the proper use of imagination. I have witnessed those without formal education achieve intellectual heights beyond the reach of scholars. I have seen the physically frail restore themselves to vibrant health. I have watched the financially destitute rise to prosperity. I have observed the lonely and rejected become surrounded by love and acceptance. All through the same principle I am sharing with you tonight, the principle that imagination creates reality. The question is not whether your miracle is possible. The question is whether you are willing to assume the consciousness required for its manifestation. Are you willing to let go of your present concept of self and assume a new concept that aligns with your desire? Are you willing to live from the end even when all sensory evidence contradicts it? Are you willing to persist in your assumption until it hardens into fact? If your answer is yes, then your miracle is not merely coming, it is here now, waiting to be recognized and claimed. For in the realm of consciousness, where all creation begins, time and space do not exist as we know them in the three-dimensional world. Your tomorrow exists now as a present possibility. By assuming the feeling of that possibility as a present fact, you collapse time and bring your desire into your today. Remember the words of Scripture: before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. This is not some supernatural promise, but a statement of psychological law. The answer to your prayer, your miracle, exists before you even ask for it. It exists as a state of consciousness that you can enter through the portal of imagination. When you truly understand this principle, you will never again beg or plead for your good. You will never again feel dependent on external circumstances or other people. You will know with unshakable conviction that your consciousness is the only reality and everything else is its servant. I encourage you tonight to embark on a bold experiment. Select one desire that you've been struggling to manifest. Perhaps it's a relationship, a job opportunity, a health condition, or a financial goal. For the next 30 days, commit to living completely from the assumption that this desire is already fulfilled. Construct a scene that implies its fulfillment and enter this scene each night before sleep. During your waking hours, conduct your inner conversations as though your desire were already a fact. Do not tell anyone about this experiment. Keep it as a sacred covenant between you and your own wonderful human imagination. At the end of 30 days, you will be amazed at how your outer world has begun to reflect your inner assumption. Your miracle is not subject to chance or luck. It is governed by law, the law of consciousness. This law states that whatever you assume to be true in consciousness must objectify itself in your reality. It cannot do otherwise, for consciousness is the one and only reality, and everything else is merely its projection. Throughout human history, those who have discovered this law have performed what the world calls miracles. But they were not miracles in the sense of violations of natural law. They were the natural expressions of a higher law, the law that consciousness is the only reality. And when consciousness is changed, reality must change to reflect it. As we near the conclusion of our time together, I want to emphasize a critical point. Your miracle is not contingent on anything outside yourself. It does not depend on the economy, the government, other people's opinions, your past experiences, or your present circumstances. It depends solely on the state of consciousness you assume and maintain. This understanding liberates you from the tyranny of circumstances. You are no longer a victim of conditions, but a creator of conditions. You are no longer at the mercy of the world, but are the master of your world. For the world is nothing more than your consciousness objectified. I invite you tonight to embrace this liberating truth. Your miracle is already yours in consciousness. Claim it, feel it, live from it, and watch as the outer world reshapes itself to match the pattern you have established within. Remember, the kingdom of heaven is within you. This kingdom is not a place but a state of consciousness. When you enter the state of having your desire fulfilled, you have entered the kingdom. And from that kingdom, your miracle will manifest as naturally and as inevitably as dawn follows night. Do not give up. Persist in your assumption. For your persistence is not a struggle against reality, but the assertion of a deeper reality, the reality of consciousness, as the only creative power in your world. Your miracle is here now. It exists this very moment in your imagination. By the law of assumption, what exists in imagination must objectify itself in your reality. This is not theory or speculation, it is law. And when you align yourself with this law, nothing in this world can prevent the fulfillment of your desire. Go forth in the conviction that what you have assumed in consciousness is already yours in experience. Live from that conviction and watch as the miracle unfolds before your eyes, not as something new coming into your life, but as the natural expression of what you have already accepted as true and the one and only reality, the reality of consciousness. I leave you with this promise: all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. Believe not with your intellect, but with your feeling. Feel the reality of your desire now, and in the not distant future, you will hold in your hands the manifestation of that which you have already held in your consciousness. Your miracle is not coming, it has come. Recognize it, claim it, and it is yours. For you are the operant power, and your consciousness is the one and only reality.